overall. So we had what we consider to be a sound theoretical framework.
The shell was there.
Yes, the Constitution was there, and it had addressed, because we have encountered these problems over decades, it had deliberately addressed many of these problems. But the enforcement, the implementation of all these processes we had put in place,
yes,
was very weak, and that resulted in the paradox. So you have an electoral management body that ends up being put in place, yes, because of the kind of deliberate delays you were speaking about earlier, too close to the process to enable it to actually do its work effectively.
Okay, that is it.
In your report, as you said, you haven't read it. Where do you place corruption?
Oof. We had footage of political actors, and we released at least excuse me, please. Right. We released at least 3 interim reports before this report came out, because we set up the unit in July 2012. If you go back to those interim reports, you will see footage, for instance, of candidates either dishing out money or having other people do it on their behalf. And I'm not so sure this kind of conduct applied only in relation to the general election. I think if you go back and look at the party nomination processes, you will find a very troubling picture, because, for example, I think to prevent party hopping, all the parties waited until the last minute.
Yes.
But even that still didn't prevent that.
Yes, yes.
So you have some very eminent, you have some very eminent people, some of whom are people who historically have been involved in the human rights struggle, and so you'd think would have a little bit more respect for the rule of law,
yes,
who in the end, in order to get in, violated really the law. And I think that sometimes in terms of enforcement, we have made convenient choices, because we feel that if as a society we open up some of these questions, the impact may unravel things.
Of
because
course,
of the large portion of people who are in violation.
Of course, Atsango, you know that the biggest question in this country are people who still doubt the outcome or the verdict of the IEBC over the presidential election.
Yes.
What was your finding in respect overall? Did you come to the conclusion of the IEBC, and secondly, to the conclusion of the Supreme Court?
It's difficult to come to a conclusion, because one of the problems is that if you look at the issue of the voter register, for example, the IEBC gave many different figures. We are yet to receive the final results, and without those results from the
polling stations,
from the various polling stations, it's not possible to actually say. So one of the things that we have recommended is that there be an audit of that process, yes, by the IEBC, and by us as the public demanding an audit of the entire process. The issue of registration.
It may not happen. Can somebody go to court and force them to do that?
I think we as a public are going to have to possibly do those kind of things.
Yeah,
we cannot rely on the political elite, because the untidiness of all of this works for them, I think. So we cannot rely on the political elite to do that, and we as a public have to, which is the other concern. We as a public have to start stepping up more. If you look at the statistics around, for example, awareness about these offices, these 6 offices, the presidency and the member of parliament in the National Assembly are not new offices. The presidency which is the one which was, in our findings, the best understood office. And by best understood, it was very simple. All we did was look at the Constitution and say, what are the functions of this particular office, and ask people, what do you consider to be the roles? And if they named less than 2, yes, for example, then we concluded that their understanding, they had a poor understanding.
Yes.
Yes? If you look at the presidency, which is the best understood office, based on a very rudimentary, yes, form of
what percentage
of questioning.
Understand?
26%.
Understand the presidency, the job, the
yes,
role. 26%.
Yes, and that's the best understood office. Now you move to the office of Member of Parliament,
yes,
sitting in the National Assembly. 20%, which is the next highest, understand. Senator, only 10%.
Understand
so the question,
what the role of a senator is.
Yes, the question becomes, on what basis was the Kenyan voter making their choice?
If they didn't know the role.
If they don't know the role. And then it becomes quite clear why we're having some of the challenges we're having right now. Because that parliamentarian is understanding of what their job is supposed to be, and we, the public, who elected those parliamentarians, that member of the county assembly, and we, the members of the public who elected those members of the county assembly, is understanding of what they're supposed to be doing is completely different. And by the way, we didn't look at what the office holders themselves is understanding. We've done some work on devolution, which, you know, that's not what we were presenting. But it would be interesting to run a similar poll with the office holders themselves in terms of what they understood to be their purpose. Just
maybe, if you can, flag out something else that is staggering. I mean, that is really staggering, if you ask me. 26% understanding the role of a president, and 10% or thereabouts understanding the role of a member of parliament.
Maybe the question is not right, because we have been electing president since '63. Why should people not know the role of the president?
Exactly. So we need to address the whole issue of civic awareness. And this is why I was saying that even for us as civil society, there is a task there to engage with, not just, it's not just the responsibility of the, it's not just about the political elite, it's not just bodies like the IEBC. We as ourselves as a public need to begin to ask ourselves, then what have we been engaging in? And why, why are we being surprised at the kind of results? And why are we so happy to abandon our responsibility to somebody else?
So looking at the practice, our democratic expectations of the electoral process, let's look at the political parties and how they conducted the nominations and so forth. Adherence to the Political Parties Act and that whole environment, democracy at the political party level. What did you find out? Anything happy to report home about? Well, that is where the gist of this practice is.
There's a lot of work to be done there. I don't know where to begin. They, first of all, are required by law to respect their processes. You see incidences of violence being practiced within the nomination process. For instance, there was an incident where there was a woman who I think was seeking nomination as a senator.
Senator.
Yes. And that was not within a political party. I'm sorry, it was between two different parties.
Yes.
But I will give a different example. There was a woman who I think wanted to run for MP, or may even have wanted to run for a member of a county assembly. But there was a powerful party leader in that particular county. It happened somewhere in Nairobi. And there was quite a powerful MP who was candidate.
Yes.
Within the party, who I think did not feel that this woman's candidature would be in his interest.
Names, we know it, Ms. Ongoro.
So no, this is not Ms. Ongoro.
No,
I'm not dealing with the MP level.
Okay.
And so this woman could not even get her nomination papers because of the violence that that prevented her from even getting
the papers.
to that stage.
Yeah.
So, and this is quite a low level. I'm not talking about somebody who was running, let alone when you start looking at the senatorial level, when you start looking at the gubernatorial level, because you have and between parties. So if you are having violence being perpetrated within parties, how do you expect those parties which don't value those, because it illustrates that they don't value those democratic principles, to respect those principles in the inter-party contest, which is what the election is?
In your findings, who is a member of a political party in this country?
Well, that's where, with all due respect to the Registrar of Political Parties, she was lax. We had a lot of complaints. I think this is in the public domain. I don't think it's even, and I would not be surprised to find that I belong to a party which I've never heard of, to be frank. And I think that was a violation of all of us many of us' rights. I think the most experienced violation by Kenyans was that political parties went, in desperation to I think, ensure that they had that they were on record as having the political party membership necessary to enable them to field candidates, then submitted.
Yeah.
They're supposed to have in 24
people's
counties.
names that
24 counties. There
yes,
must
for the
be.
presidency, and if you want to run people at at certain levels, you must have a national outlook if you want to run people at certain levels. I think it's only if you're going to run candidates within your particular only within a particular county.
But that status quo remains. That mess of membership remains. I don't see it being rectified between now and 2017. We will have the same mark of membership in 2017. So I don't see anybody doing anything about it.
Well, I think we need to, because there were questions raised about even the procurement of the software that was used by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. There is a lot of work here that can be taken up from this report by people who are actually interested in ensuring enforcement from various perspectives. I don't think that that we are the only people who will be relying on this, and I don't think it's even just the IEBC. I think many other actors, anyone who is concerned about corruption, there's work that we can do there. But I think Parliament must be taken to task on the issue of the Registrar of Political Parties, and I think that work needs to happen now, ensuring the rectification of the way in which that office is being held.
In your report, you've looked at, of course, the political parties' non-compliance with the law, the electoral law, as well as their own internal constitutions and electoral processes for nominations and so forth. What recommendations do you make around that area in the report? Especially, for example, are you advocating for extension of periods by when certain things ought to be done? Are you requiring membership to be reinforced and policed by external agencies, the political parties, the registrar of political parties, or what is the way forward there?
I think the first thing that has to happen there is to address the issue of the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. That is imperative.
Yeah.
That office, as it exists right now, is not legal. Somebody was supposed to have been appointed.
Yes.
And that whole process.
It never got on.
Yes, needs to be addressed.
And right now, nothing is going on as well, right? Or is there anything? Because this is now the window when that should be fixed, so that before even political parties are beginning to have elections.
Exactly.
So we need to have a registrar who is overseeing that compliance.
Because if you don't have, precisely, and then, because if you don't have an enforcement mechanism that is